August 23, 1997. Great Ormond Street Hospital, London. Room 214, 3:47 a.m. Princess Diana knelt beside the bed of 6-year-old Sophie Chen, a little girl who had been refusing all treatment for 3 days. The doctors had given up hope. Sophie's parents were preparing for the worst. But then Sophie whispered 7 words to Diana that would haunt the princess for the rest of her life, all 8 days of it. Those 7 words would change not just how Diana saw her own mortality, but would lead to her most dangerous decision, the trip to Paris that would end everything. But the most shocking part wasn't what the dying child said to Diana. It was what Diana realized about her own fate in that hospital room, and the desperate plan she made in the final week of her life. August 20th, 1997, Wednesday evening, Diana's private office, Kensington Palace, 11:30 p.m. Diana was reviewing her schedule for the upcoming week when her private secretary, Victoria Mendham, knocked on the door with unusual urgency. "Ma'am, I'm sorry to disturb you so late, but there's been a call from Great Ormond Street Hospital. Dr. Marcus Whitfield is asking if you might consider an emergency visit." Diana looked up from her papers. She had been making unofficial hospital visits for years, but emergency calls were rare. "What's the situation, Victoria?" "A 6-year-old Chinese-British girl named Sophie Chen. She's been battling leukemia for 2 years. The doctors say she has perhaps 48 hours left, but she's refusing all treatment, all food, even water. She'll only speak to say one thing: 'I want to see the princess who hugs children.'" Diana felt her chest tighten. She had heard similar requests before, but something about this one felt different. Her parents, Dr. James Chen and his wife Lynn, are both physicians themselves. They've tried everything. The child has seen your photographs in the hospital's children's ward and has become fixated on meeting you. Dr. Whitfield says it might be their last hope to get her to accept treatment. Diana was already reaching for her coat. "Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. And Victoria, no press, no photographers, no official record." "Of course, ma'am." But what Diana didn't know was that little Sophie Chen knew something about death that would terrify the princess. Something that would make Diana question every decision she was about to make. August 20th, 11:47 p.m. Great Ormond Street Hospital, Pediatric Oncology Ward. Dr. Marcus Whitfield, the hospital's chief pediatric oncologist, met Diana at the private entrance. A tall, distinguished man in his 60s. He had worked with Diana on several previous visits. "Princess, thank you for coming at such short notice. I must warn you, Sophie is different from other children you visited." "Different how?" "She's been saying things, ma'am. Things about death, about leaving, that are beyond her years. Her parents are physicians, rational people. But even they're unsettled by some of the things she's said." They walked through the dimly lit corridors toward the pediatric wing. Diana had made this walk dozens of times, but tonight felt heavier. "What exactly has she been saying, Dr. Whitfield?" "Yesterday she told her mother, 'The pretty lady in the pictures is coming to see me, and then we'll both go on the same journey.'" When her mother asked what journey, Sophie said, "The one where you don't come back, but you're not scared anymore." Diana stopped walking. "She said that?" "I'm afraid so. Her parents are, well, as you can imagine, they're desperate." August 21st, 12:05 a.m. Room 214. Sophie Chen's hospital room. When Diana entered the room, she saw a tiny figure in the hospital bed that broke her heart. Sophie Chen was barely visible under the white sheets, her small head covered with a colorful scarf that couldn't quite hide her baldness from chemotherapy. But her eyes were alert and unnaturally bright. Dr. James Chen, a distinguished-looking man in his 40s, and his wife Lynn, an elegant woman with exhausted eyes, stood beside the bed. They looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. "Dr. Chen, Mrs. Chen," Diana said softly, extending her hand. "I'm so sorry about Sophie's condition." "Princess Diana," Dr. Chen's voice was hoarse with emotion. "Thank you for coming. Sophie has been asking for you for days." Lin Chen stepped forward. "She saw your photograph in the children's playroom and became fixated. She said you were the angel lady who wasn't afraid to touch sick children." Diana approached the bed slowly. Sophie's eyes tracked her movement with an intensity that was startling for such a young child. "Hello, Sophie," Diana said gently, sitting in the chair beside the bed. I'm Diana. I heard you wanted to meet me. Sophie studied Diana's face for a long moment before speaking. Her voice was whisper soft but clear. You're more beautiful than your pictures. But you're sad. Why are you sad? The directness of the question caught Diana off guard. Well, I'm sad because you're not feeling well. Sophie shook her head slowly. No, you were sad before you came here. You're sad about the same thing I am. This is where the story takes an impossible turn, because what Sophie said next would prove to be more prophetic than anyone could have imagined. August 21st, 12:15 a.m., the conversation that changed everything. Diana felt a chill run down her spine. What are you sad about, Sophie? About leaving people behind? About not being able to say goodbye properly? About being afraid that people will forget you? The room went completely silent. Dr. and Mrs. Chen exchanged glances. These weren't the words of a typical 6-year-old. Diana leaned closer. Sophie, who told you these things? Nobody told me. I just know. The same way you know, Princess. You're scared about leaving too, aren't you? Sophie reached out with her tiny hand and touched Diana's arm. Not now, but soon. That's why you came to see me, because we understand each other. Dr. Whitfield stepped forward. Perhaps we should. No, Diana said quietly. Let her talk, Sophie continued, her voice growing stronger. Princess, can I tell you a secret? Diana nodded. When people are going to die, they get a special feeling, like they're connected to other people who are going to die too. That's why you came here tonight, because part of you knew. The words hit Diana like a physical blow. She had been having strange dreams lately, feelings of impending change, a sense that something was ending. She had attributed it to her recent divorce, her struggles with the paparazzi, her uncertain future. Sophie, Diana whispered, what do you see when you have these feelings? I see a bright light, but it's not scary, and I see people I love waiting for me. But I also see sadness for the people who stay behind. Sophie paused. Who will be sad when you leave, Princess? My sons, Diana said without thinking. William and Harry. They're lucky to have you as their mama. My mama and papa are lucky too. But being lucky doesn't make it hurt less when someone leaves. Mrs. Chen was crying silently. Dr. Chen had his hand over his mouth, struggling to maintain composure. August 21st, 12:30 a.m., the hug that lasted 20 minutes. Sophie, Diana said, would you like me to hold you for a while? Sophie nodded and carefully scooted over in her bed. Diana climbed up beside her, something she had never done in any of her other hospital visits. She wrapped her arms around the tiny girl and held her close. For 20 minutes they lay there together. Sophie talked quietly about her dreams, her fears, her understanding of death that seemed far beyond her years. Diana listened, occasionally asking questions, but mostly just being present. Princess, Sophie whispered, when you go on your journey, remember that it's okay to be scared, but don't let the scared feeling stop you from being brave. What do you mean? Sometimes we have to do things even when we know they might be dangerous, because the thing we're trying to do is more important than being safe. Diana pulled Sophie closer. What kind of things? Like trying to make people understand about love, or trying to help people who are different from you, or trying to show the world that being kind is more important than being powerful. You haven't seen the most incredible part yet, because what Sophie whispered to Diana in the final minutes of their embrace would predict exactly how Diana would die. 8 days later, August 21st, 12:45 a.m., the prophecy that came true. As their 20-minute embrace was coming to an end, Sophie whispered something that would haunt Diana for the rest of her short life. Princess, I need to tell you something important, but you have to promise not to be scared. I promise, sweetheart. Sophie pulled back slightly to look directly into Diana's eyes. In my dreams, I see you in a car, a dark car, and there are bright lights, like cameras, but also like angels, and you're not alone, but the person with you, they're going to die too. Diana's blood went cold. Sophie, that's just a dream. Dreams aren't real. This one is, Sophie said with certainty that was terrifying in a child. But here's the important part. You're not going to die because someone wants to hurt you. You're going to die because you're trying to help someone, and that makes it different. Different how? It makes it brave instead of just sad, And when people remember you, they'll remember the brave part, not just the dying part. Diana was shaking now. Sophie, why are you telling me this? Because you need to know that what you're planning to do, it's the right thing. Even if it's dangerous. Sometimes the right thing and the safe thing aren't the same thing. What am I planning to do? Sophie smiled, a peaceful expression that seemed ancient on her young face. You're planning to show the world what love looks like. Even if it means going to a place where cameras follow you. Even if it means being with someone who makes some people angry. The reference was unmistakable. Diana had been planning to go public with her relationship with Dodi Al-Fayed, despite the controversy it would cause. She had been considering a trip to Paris, despite security concerns about paparazzi. How do you know about that? Diana whispered. I just know. The same way I know that after tonight, I'm going to stop being scared of dying. Because you showed me that even princesses get scared. But they're still brave. Wait a minute. Don't miss this detail. What happened immediately after Diana left the hospital that night would prove that Sophie's words had changed everything. August 21st, 1:15 a.m., outside Great Ormond Street Hospital. As Diana prepared to leave, she knelt beside Sophie's bed one more time. Sophie, will you promise me something? Yes, princess. Promise me you'll try the treatment. Promise me you'll fight to stay here a little longer. Sophie considered this seriously. I'll try, but only if you promise me something too. What? Promise me you won't change your plans because of what I told you. Promise me you'll still be brave even if you're scared. Diana felt tears coming. Sophie, because if you don't be brave, then my being brave doesn't matter as much. I promise. Sophie smiled. Good. Now I can take my medicine. As Diana left the hospital that night, her driver noticed that she was unusually quiet. Everything all right, ma'am? James, Diana said, do you believe that children sometimes know things that adults don't? My grandmother always said children are closer to heaven, ma'am. They see things we've forgotten how to see. August 21st, 29th, 1997, the final week. Over the next 8 days, Diana called the hospital every morning to check on Sophie's progress. True to her promise, Sophie had begun accepting treatment again. Her condition improved dramatically, but Sophie's words haunted Diana. Every decision she made that week seemed to echo the child's prophecy. When Mohammed Al-Fayed invited her to spend time with Dodi in Paris, Diana almost said no, but she remembered her promise to Sophie. Promise me you'll still be brave, even if you're scared. When her security team expressed concerns about the paparazzi situation in Paris, Diana almost canceled the trip. But again, Sophie's words came back to her. Sometimes the right thing and the safe thing aren't the same thing. On August 28th, 3 days before her death, Diana made one final call to Sophie. How are you feeling, sweetheart? Much better, princess. The doctors say I might get to go home soon. That's wonderful news. Princess, are you still planning your trip? Diana was amazed that Sophie remembered. Yes, I am. Good. Remember what I told you. Being brave is more important than being safe. What you've seen so far is nothing. Because what happened on August 31st, the night Diana died, would prove that Sophie Chen had seen the impossible. August 30th, 1997, 11:30 p.m., Paris, Ritz Hotel.